welcome to Home Open. Here we talk about real estate and financial questions, needs, or comments. We gather up several articles throughout the week and months to discuss. I'm Sean Broadbent with Magellan Capital Management. I will be focusing more on the financial newsletters out there.
And, some of the stories I picked up on that relate to buying, selling, investing in real estate. I'm John Adamson with Realty Center, and I'll be taking the real estate perspective right now.
Great. John, last time we talked, we've been talking a lot about the interest rates. Mm-hmm. This time, again, we have some more articles.
Well, I look right here, and we start off with a real pretty graph that shows that interest rates for residential homes down to 5.75%. But in an article behind that says current mortgage rates declined to lowest level since 2005. Now, I know since we started getting ready for tonight's show, the Fed's just today, I believe, lowered it 0.5%.
That happened yesterday, another 0.5% in the Fed funds rate, which in turn doesn't directly reflect the long-term mortgages, but we do see it a few days later, it might actually come down.
I thought it was kind of interesting that this time 1 year ago, the interest rate was 6.75%, so that's a full drop. And we really haven't seen interest rates at 5.75, according to this article, since June 6th of 2005. 2005,
it's been a couple of years. I remember that time. It was a great time. And now, as the rates have dipped back down, I love it. It keeps us busy. We're seeing a lot of refinancing going on right now, which is good. There's a lot of people that might be in adjustable rates that are maturing at this point that, their payments are really going to skyrocket.
And I know last show that was one of the big concerns because it was the credit crunch had hit, the subprime loans were no more. There was a lot of threat of increased foreclosures and the ability of people to go out and refinance their adjustable rate mortgages. And then it looked like the federal government was going to step in and they were going to do some things to help people refinance and that sort of thing. Since we were on, you've seen these different programs come in. Are they helping people? Are they going to be able to save their homes?
I think so. We hope to be able to save a lot more than what we can, probably. But definitely with these rates that have dropped down. In fact, just last week, they came down as low as 5.375. So this 5.75 is kind of an average, but there was a day that lasted about 2 or 3 hours in that day that it dipped down so low that we were able to lock in quite a few people that, refinancing. The refinancing applications have grown tremendously this month.
Well, let's say that it levels out to maybe 5.5%. Is that going to be low enough to maybe get the market back on track, get it growing, and more people wanting to buy homes?
Oh yes, definitely. Anything below, I think 6% is we're at record lows below 6%. So if you can sustain this for a long period of time, it will definitely help out a lot of the families out there that have maybe higher interest rates, or the families that are looking at buying a home, getting into a home. And for investors, it helps everyone out in this market.
The rate that they quote is normally the Fannie Mae rate, the conventional loan rate. In Idaho, we have Idaho Housing.
Right.
And it's a special program for basically first-time home buyers, people who haven't owned a home in the past 3 years.
Right.
That rate, when this article came out, was slightly over 5%. So now that should probably push down the Idaho housing rate now to in the mid-4.5, 4.7 range, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should. Back in 2005, they typically were, they could get up as high as 1 point lower, lower 1 point versus the Fannie Mae, the normal conforming rate. They're not so aggressive now, only for the fact that they can accommodate more families. It's not necessarily first-time home buyers anymore. It used to be strictly first-time home buyers. They've kind of brought in their guidelines. But we'll see those first-time home buyer rates with Idaho. You'll be in the mid-4s.
Now, I know back in 2002, 2003, a lot of people are saying that 2007 was very similar to 2003, 2004. before the interest rates came so low like they did in 2005, people that had a little trouble still qualifying, they would do things called a buy down,
right,
where the seller would actually give money at closing to be set aside and help offset the payment for 2 or 3 years. And under most of the programs, you could actually buy the rate down as much as 3% the first year, 2% the second, 1% the third year. That would have a cost a little over 4.5%, but it made the payments dramatically lower. A lot of people wanted to buy a home. It was still a fairly inexpensive tool that sellers could use to get their homes sold. Do you think we'll see more buy downs, or are they low enough now?
Yeah, I think buy downs are still out there. I think a lot of people got away from those, but now I think they're starting to come back in. We've had a few applicants that we might be negotiating with the seller to contribute for a buy down. Like you said, you can do 1% buy down, 2%, or 3%, and it will just tear back up to the normal conforming rate.
And I would think, even at like 5.5%, you could get the rate down as low as 2.5%.
For the first year, 3.5% the second, then 4.5%, and then 5.5% is the remaining amortized rate.
That might be a great way for a lot of people to buy a home. You mentioned investors. It's still pretty difficult for investors to go out and buy rental property, isn't it?
It is difficult, but it's still possible. It's now requiring that you will need to come in with some money. Back 6 months ago, we were able to do investors, even 100% investing for investors.
And even with 10% down, it's pretty much they have to qualify. There's not going to be stated income.
Full documentation at that point.
And if you want to, maybe you already have rental units and you want to buy more, you wouldn't qualify under traditional lending, and you wanted to do one of these simple mortgages, I believe you call them stated income type mortgages, you'd probably have to put about 20% down now to buy like an investment property.
To do a stated income, and stated income, a lot of people shy away. They don't understand what a stated income is. A lot of self-employed...
Well, they kind of got thrown out with the subprime loans.
Right, they have been thrown out with the credit crunch and the guidelines that have come out. Stated income loans is for, in most cases, for self-employed individuals.
People that have trouble verifying their income, maybe contractors, self-employed people.
They're going to write off a lot of their income. So on paper, maybe they're not as strong financially, but they really are making a lot. They're pocketing a lot of money, but as paper, they maybe not. They're not making as much.
I noticed we have an article this week on consumer confidence, and they're saying that consumer confidence is currently lower than it was in October of 2005. And, I can remember 2005, home prices went up over 30% in the Valley. It was a very robust year, and then Katrina hit. And it was almost like the market stood still for several months. And people were worried. They didn't want to go out and buy homes. They didn't want to do anything with regards to real estate for 3 or 4 months. And now we're at that same low level. Election year, uncertainty in the stock market. Since our last show, we've seen the stock market fall over 1,300 points.
Right.
And so I can see consumer confidence going down. Do you think with the lower interest rates, this is going to help push up consumer confidence?
I think so, John. I think it's going with the rates. A lot of things, you can accomplish a lot of things with lower rates. One, with the prime rates, with the Fed lowering the Fed funds rate, that's going to lower the prime rate, which is that drives the home equity line of credit. It's always off of that prime rate plus a margin. Sometimes it's prime even. With those lower, you're going to get a little lower rate, little lower payments on that as well. I can imagine with credit card companies, they're going to have the lower rates. It's just going to be cheaper money to land back and forth.
With the Fed actually lowering the rate, will we see lower payments on home equity lines of credit? That's where a lot of people, got those before the credit crunch. Will we have more people going out being able to get seconds if they have equity in their home?
If they've got equity in their home equity lines right now are extremely cheap, only for the fact they go off the prime rate. So prime rate right now, as of yesterday, a little more affordable. They're going to be cheap money to borrow, as low as the prime right now is at 6.25. So if you have a home equity line of credit at prime, you're looking at 6.25 plus maybe a little margin if you have one, which is good.
So the good news is, I think, then with the rates is one, they're the lowest they've been in 2 years. It's good for home buyers, and also people looking for home equity lines of credit is going to be lower. So it'd be one good reason somebody might want to go out and buy a home.
Yeah, with the home equity lines, it just brings a point, John, with, as we were saying, it might require for investors to put a larger sum of money down. That's a great avenue or a great source to get their money. If they do have some equity in their primary resident, that they could go ahead and pull the home equity line, a cheap rate, cheap money, to go ahead and put that as a down payment on an investment property.
Sure, that's a good idea. We had mentioned consumer confidence down since Katrina 2005. I would think that, and they say that, they're blaming it on, weaker employment figures. They're blaming it on the credit crunch, the housing. But no one's mentioned in this particular article I'm looking at the stock market fell over 1,300 points. And I would think that would have a lot to do with consumer confidence as well. Oh,
yeah. The stock market, it's been so volatile the last month, really. We've seen it as high as the Dow of 14,000, as low as 11,500. Now it's, I think, trading about 12.5. So it's been so volatile that, confidence for me, where I have my money in a brokerage account, is that safe there? I don't know.
There's so much influx with this securities industry, and where mortgages are sold as securities, are people going to be interested in buying them with these lower rates, you think?
Well, I would hope so. I don't know what they're going to be looking at, but with the guidelines as tightened as they are, with the lower rates, they're going to get, I think, a huge volume again, kind of boosting the housing market once again. We've been in a little bit slower of a slump lately, and I think it will boost
lead to more refinances, more home sales, just overall general better real estate economy.
I think so, and I think that's kind of the reason why the Fed is doing that, is so they can kind of give a boost to, that's really the economy is going down because of the housing market. At least that's what everyone is saying in the papers. So I think this is really to help boost that sector of the economy, is the housing sector.
One of the reasons we wanted to start doing this show is you can't always just go by the headlines. You almost have to read the whole story. And normally when you do, you find out it's not quite as bad as what the headline leads you to believe.
Right.
In some of the other shows, we say if you see a headline that says, homes down 27%, you need to read the article to see if they're talking about home sales being off 27% or if home prices have actually come down 27%.
Right.
Here's one story in case, a little tiny one at the bottom of the business section, and they're talking about home prices, and they show home prices going down, and they show that U.S. home prices have gone down for 10 consecutive months, ending in November of last year, predicting that it may go even further down this coming year. But it was kind of interesting. We have to read the story now, but you have to kind of figure what they're using to make their predictions on. And
what areas are they working with?
What areas are they monitoring and so forth. This particular graph is the Standard & Poor's Case-Shiller 20 City Composite Index, where it's not actually looking at homes in general, if they've gone up or gone down. They look at a specific home in one of 20 markets and then see if that particular home has gone up or down.
Right.
Very limited, only 20 cities throughout the United States. Boise, Idaho is not one of them. In fact, I think the closest one on their list is Portland. And so, and that is funny because then they have to do a little disclaimer at the end that for 3 of their cities in the 20, home prices actually went up: Charlotte, North Carolina, Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington.
So the cities that are closest to us are actually improving.
Going up, actually going up.
Interesting.
It's funny how, you see things and then people just register in their mind home prices going down because they'll see something that in 20 cities across the United States are going down, won't make it to the very end of the story and see that Portland's going up, Seattle's going up. If Boise had been on the list, they'd probably be going up as well. I thought one of the funniest stories for me as a real estate professional that I saw was a story that came out and it was headlined "A Tale of Two Houses," and why does one home sell while another one doesn't? And they start out by showing you, one home, a 1,700 square foot 3-bedroom home, and then a smaller 1,500 square foot home. They both have 3 bedrooms, but one has been on the market since February of 2007, nearly a full year, and the other house was on the market 5 days and sold.
Wow.
And actually, it was a real long article. It went into 3 pages of continuing story. And what I found was kind of interesting is one home was in Meridian and one home was in Boise, yet they were comparing them like apples to apples.
2 different cities.
And never mentioned one time that Boise home prices are higher than Meridian home prices. And most people living in the area probably know that. But new people moving into the area, when 1 out of 4 home buyers a few years ago was an investor, a lot of times this may have been their first trip to Boise, Idaho. They'd fly into the airport, they'd meet with a real estate professional, say, I want to go out and take advantage of some great buys. They think they're going to go up, go show me houses. And they would go out and maybe show homes in Boise, a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. It'd be $170,000. They'd drive to Meridian, same home would be $160,000. Still thinking they're within Boise. Maybe drive to Star and it might be down another $10,000. By the time they got to Nampa, it would be $40,000 less. Still thinking they're in Boise, and say, well, let's take 10 of these homes.
Right.
It always goes back to that adage, and I hate it when people say it on TV, but location is such a key factor in value. Even though the house in Boise is smaller, even though the house in Boise is a 2-story, the fact that it's just minutes from downtown, close to the foothills, is going to make it more valuable than a tract home over in Meridian.
That definitely plays a big factor for me. Location. If you like the foothills, like the downtown nightlife and life down there, or maybe you're a student at Boise State, you can. It's very convenient to hop on a bike and just buzz on down there.
Sure.
I can really see the advantage of being down there.
And I think as when people go out and shop around, they're going to see that, not all areas have gone down. One of the reports that came out showed some of the problem cities around the nation. And one of them was Denver, Colorado. And I went to Denver since our last show. And I looked at the home prices, and that actually, according to the survey, gone down about not quite 2%, 1.75% is what they had gone down in value, average price. But that meant some, of course, went down more, and some actually went up in value in order to have that low decline. But when I went out to look at the homes that had gone into foreclosure and so forth, most of them were in areas that most people thought were undesirable 2-3 years ago, but they were built to keep the home prices down. They were built because land prices had gone skyrocketing. They were built because there just wasn't anywhere else to build homes. So now when the credit crunch, market prices have slowed down, and people now can slow down and think where they want to live, they think, do I really want to live 20 miles outside of town? Do I really want to live in this old rundown part of the city? And those prices are going down. Where the nice subdivisions we see, the homes are still going up in value. This same article talked about Las Vegas with one of the highest foreclosure rates in the nation. In fact, when I went to Las Vegas to check it out, just like in Denver, there was pages that would say 27 homes going on the auction block, 60 homes must be sold. And I went out and looked at them again in Las Vegas. It was homes way out, undesirable areas, high-density type living situations, or brand new subdivisions many times that were built up and then not sold. New construction that they just couldn't sell. And even in Las Vegas, where it's like one of the 3rd worst real estate economies in the nation, the nice homes, the homes that people would use for second homes are close to the city and nice subdivisions, those home prices were actually going up. One of the articles, of course, they talked about Idaho foreclosures skyrocket. That's one of them that we picked out. And we had kind of talked about this in other shows, that just because a home goes into foreclosure doesn't necessarily mean that the bank's going to get it back. And they talked about how foreclosures were up 151% from 2007. And really I think some of the story is interesting. Of 6,000 foreclosures, 3,000 were double filings, which means that the people had foreclosure started on them, they took it out of foreclosure, and then went back into foreclosure. And that alone would make the overall number of foreclosures go up in the state, just people having to file twice. And the only mention of that again was near the very end of the story. No mention of it up here in the headlines. And the typical person reading this is going to think 151% more foreclosures, up to 6,000. But when we really look and see how many actually ended up going into foreclosure, it was slightly over 1,200 homes throughout the whole state of Idaho. And yes, the majority were in Boise and Nampa-Caldwell area, but spread out over a year's time, there was probably only 35 to 50 foreclosures in the area at any one time. Compared to over 5,000 homes for sale, that's less than 1%. So really not as bad as people would think. I do think though that with the number of foreclosures, with the fact that 2007 home prices only went up not even quite 7%, where in 2006, the year the bubble burst, they went up nearly 12%, and nothing like 2005 when they were up over 30%. I do feel that people are thinking that with the low interest rates, now they can couple that with some low home prices locally.
Yeah.
And I do think that's really going to make the market take off. And I think it'll take off first in Boise, then work its way to Meridian, and then to the Nampa-Caldwell area.
Yeah. I did notice in this article as well, more in depth of the article, the headline says it's up 151%, but then it does come back and say that Idaho is lower as far as a national average. We have the lower percentage of foreclosing homes. And these rates, just like you mentioned, with the rates as low as they are, I think a lot of people can reinstate those foreclosures, just like you said. I think a lot of people, they don't want to lose their home. The banks don't want to take back the home, trying to fix it up and sell it. So a lot of the banks are willing to work with the people that have maybe gone in default, maybe behind a couple of months of payment, and hopefully with the rates as low as they are, they can go ahead and reinstate those. Now our goal is when they reinstate not to go back into foreclosure, like you said, to get double dinged as far as the numbers go. But I do believe that with these rates, it's going to help a lot of people.
Sure. Lower rates, the presumption that there's better priced homes on the market, I think that's going to make both the real estate investors come back out, and also home buyers come out thinking they're going to get more home for the dollar right now. One interesting story I did see, and it really wasn't related to homes or mortgage finance. It had to do with the number of bankruptcy filings had nearly doubled in the state over the past year. And I'm wondering, even though they made the bankruptcy laws much tighter here this past year to have more filings when they were down, a lot of people find out that if they're having trouble making their mortgage payment, instead of having the home go into foreclosure, they'll file bankruptcy, which actually stops the foreclosure action and gives them some breathing room in order to get their finances back in order. And I think we're going to see a lot more people actually save their homes by doing this particular action, especially if interest rates come down, and they'll be a little bit more able to go out and refinance.
Yeah, as far as bankruptcies go, John, you have to, the biggest thing that I do to explain to my customers that are struggling with their payments and they want to not get foreclosed on, but to go into bankruptcy, that if they do go into bankruptcy, make sure you get your credit pulled, you get it all taken care of, and then the most important thing to buy a home later is to get your credit cards, make them on time, car payments on time, home payments on time, just for lending purposes. If they want to purchase a home in the future, if they've had a bankruptcy and then are late after the bankruptcy, it really looks bad on paper.
Well, and if you have let a home actually go bad, I've been told that that's one of the worst types of credits that can show up. It's actually worse than filing bankruptcy than to have a home foreclosed. Is that true?
Yeah, I think It is. You definitely, a foreclosed home is going to have a higher impact on that, on your credit. So.
And being able to reestablish your credit. So I do think that the reason we have so many more bankruptcies is people buying time so they don't lose their home in foreclosure, so that maybe they can arrange refinances or sell the home as it comes, when it comes time to sell.
John, that's probably a good place to stop there.
Okay.
They've been waving us on for to kind of close it up, but I do appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a pleasure talking with you, about these articles, and just for next time. We'll keep our ears and eyes open for more articles. We can talk about the real estate needs, questions, as well as financing. Again, Home Open, I'm Sean Broadbent with Magellan Capital Management.
And I'm John Adamson with Realty Center. Until next time, good night.
Good night.